Hello, hello. Well, we are starting a few minutes earlier. How is everybody? Okay, today we are going to talk about definitions. When I mean definitions, I mean uh, words themselves and how we make meaning of them. Um, so sometimes we think, for example, the other day we were talking about truth, wisdom, and intuition, and then we had a nice chat with Sergey, who commented on the things I was saying, and he said that he thought differently about what I was saying, and it was really interesting because we got together and then we started saying, "Oh, I think this about the truth," and he said, "Well, I think other things, and I think that this is this and that," and he explained a little more, and I could actually see a lot of similarities in what I was saying or thinking. What was my thought about wisdom and truth, and it wasn't exactly the same things because I don't know if two people can think exactly the same, but it was kind of really interesting because we actually find so many similarities and we were almost saying the same. I don't know, at least just with words. You don't know how the other people is going to perceive what you are saying, but at least in words it was kind of the same thing, but he was using other words, other concepts that made sense for him specifically, and I was using other words that made sense for me. But if you look at the comments, it was just fun also because we really got to understand each other, and that's nice when you get to understand people and they get to understand you, and you can see the things that are different for you and they are also similar for you and for them, and you can build upon that. That's the idea. When you have differences between people, the idea is not to argue and to get angry and to discuss in a very heavy way, but the idea is to get together and understand each other, and so they can understand what you're saying and they can also be understood by you. So today I wanted to talk about that. That's what I mean by definitions. The things we have in our head, and sometimes we think the other person is actually getting what we are saying, but maybe we are not explaining completely what we want to say. And at first, when I started with this idea of being a better communicator, I started to study, for example, NLP, and I have some instructors and some teachers that said that communications are half and half. You know, you are responsible for your part of the communication, and also for the part that you are not being understood. So communications is 100% on your side, which is kind of surprising at first when you first hear it, because you say, "Oh, then how can I make to people understand what I'm saying, or um, to get to them in some way, to really get each other's ideas and build upon that." And yes, that's true. 100% of the communication is your your responsibility, especially if you are the one trying to facilitate a workshop, training, or delivering some information. It's your responsibility for the people to understand. Of course, there might be people that won't get completely what you're saying, um, but I think what is actually transmitted and what's actually being got, quote unquote, by people is the feeling. So if you are communicating something in enthusiastic way, most people will get that enthusiasm, and will build the idea upon that. And there, of course, there are so many people in the world, and each one has their preferred system of getting things or understanding, of communicating. You can say some people are visual, some people are auditory, some auditory digital, those kind of things. But I think we are all human, and when we really connect with each other, and when we really get to a certain point where you can feel the presence of the other people, and you can actually be present for them and try to understand them, but not getting in the way of the communication. Just listening and be open for wherever thing that may arise during this conversation. That's when the actual communication happens. That's when you can see in, I don't know, in great leaders, in people that are so great at communicating. The other day I was reminded of Simon Sinek. I don't know if you have listened something about him. He has many TED Talks if you want to check him out. So the people were saying that he's a great communicator, and which I agree. There are other type of communicators which are also who are also great. Sorry, and well, you can get your own examples. But I think what's most important is to get that connection with the people that you are delivering the training, or you are talking to, or you are just having some time and want to be connected. So let's get back on definitions. What I've noticed is, we're going to play an exercise I love to do with people sometimes during workshops, and it's very easy. So for a second, if you feel like closing your eyes, because some of you like to close your eyes, imagine just this sentence I'm going to say. A cat on the roof. Just that. A simple question. A simple statement. And I have made this with several teams and some peoples and groups. And when you open the discussion and say, okay, what did you imagine about this phrase? A cat on the roof. And so many people will say, well, there's a cat. The cat is brown. No, the cat is white. The cat is black. And people will see different type of cats, type of roofs. They will maybe imagine that it's happening during the night or during the day, or maybe it's raining. Some other will say, oh, there are some noises coming from the neighbors. And you will see so many different things people are just imagining from this simple phrase that you can believe it. Maybe most of the time I can't even imagine what they are thinking, and when they say that, and they say, oh, I saw a brown cat that's playing on the roof. When you start to ask questions like, what is the cat doing? How's the roof? How's the cat? How old is the cat? And you will have so many different responses from the people in the training. And there you can understand how our definitions of things are so very different. For example, hello Gibson. You could see I'm gonna have a mate here because I had just started and I don't want to spoil it. And well, as I was saying, you will have so many responses that you will be surprised to see that other people are saying so many different things that you are saying. So imagine if you have a conversation where things are getting more, let's say, complicated, or about things or topics that are complex. It's just not about a cat on a roof. I'm sure you will have to talk at work, for example, or in your relationships with your parents, with I don't know, with your husband or wife or your girlfriend or boyfriend. You will have to discuss something that maybe is important for the both of us or for the group or for the organization, and everyone in the meeting will have different perspectives and different ideas. So even if you say the word mission or value, when we are talking value, value is so very different for each person. So and I also have this exercise done uh, many times with teams, for example, about values. Some people say, I want to be treated with respect. Okay, what's respect for you? Because I've seen teams, for example, where insults are common, especially here in Argentina. We tend to insult in a good way to our friends or our colleagues if we happen to have the trust with them. And for some teams, that's okay. It's just to insult in a good way and like a joke to other people, and so that's fine for that team. But for example, respect may leave out insult or shout for other people. So when you say value, just a simple value that we all talk about, that is respect, it means so many different things from each other. So beware of the words you're using, and maybe not just the words, but the feeling you're saying the words with. I mean the state of your mind when you're saying those words, and also beware of the tonality of your voice, but most importantly, beware that the other people is getting what you actually want to say. So I'm having a mate. Mm. So I think what happens um, most of the time is that just we say, okay, I just said this thing. I am going to be respectful to you, but the other people doesn't get it. Mm, so sit down with your partner or your colleague and try to understand what they mean um, by the words they are using. Try to understand why you are using certain words in a certain way, and try to explain the most you can to other people. And another thing that would be useful for you, because I'm thinking of an example. Um, Once I entered to work in a company as a coach. The very first day I got to meet the team, I hadn't even known the people in the team. I was told that they were about to fire someone, and of course I wanted to know first who was the person, what had happened, and if it was actually a good way to justify a person. Maybe it was a misunderstanding, which actually was at the end. And so there was a complete misunderstanding between two colleagues, and was just insulting because something hadn't resulted the way he expected. So he wasn't saying to the other person next to him the things he was saying. He was just um, venting out his frustration, and he was about to get fired just because of that, because the other person had thought it was for him, and those kind of misunderstanding. And so maybe it's also good to set some rules when you are talking to people, and if you realize the other ones are not understanding what you're saying, sometimes if you pay enough attention, you can see that in their faces we actually say everything with our faces, with our expressions, with our ways, and you will see everything the other person is actually saying and feeling about what you're saying. So if you see blank faces or faces of confusion, um, you can start explaining in a different way, or you can ask questions to see what is that they have understood, and people will tell you exactly what they need for you to be a better communicator. So ask a lot of questions to them, recheck if they have understood what you have tried to say. If they haven't, or if they have a new idea, which happens a lot, they may have their own analogies for the things you're trying to explain, which is great because you also learn from people, and they may surely have new ideas for you too. So most of the time, when I'm delivering a training or talking to people, I walk out with so many tools in my toolbox, even more than the ones I brought to the room or I brought to the course. And that will happen to you too. And if you sometimes feel like you don't get other people's expressions, for example, or other people's definitions, you actually have the capacity, this wired capacity that we all have to understand other people. You just have to listen and have to relax yourself and just be open. Just be open to understand it. I've seen some facilitators when they first start the, to work like this. I have been one of those facilitators. I was so nervous. I didn't get a thing, and I was completely up in my head, thinking, "Oh, what should I do now? Should I ask a question? What kind of question? What are we doing?" And I was so confused that the other people was getting that I was confused, and they also got confused, and everything was a big misunderstanding. So when I don't understand anything now, or something that they're when I see a confused face, I just relax. Maybe a second of silence, or doing something different, like I did just a few minutes ago. To have a mate, for example, or to just relax, have a cup of tea, drink water, and relax. Take your time. Nobody's judging you, or if they are, you don't have to care about that. Just be open to understand, and most of all, remember that you are there to help other people. It's not about you. It's about them being right, but you have to be open to help them. You have to be open for them to get themselves, because in any case, they are the ones building their knowledge. They are the ones building their products. They are the ones building their own team, and you are just there as an observer. So remember that, and everything will be fine. Um, well, regarding some of the things, I tend to go away of the topic, as you can say, as you may have seen. Um, well, there's a nice phrase I like about, I think it's from Stephen Covey, and he says, "Seek first to be, first to understand, and then to be understood." So if you want just to jump on people and tell everything you're helping them to understand, and you're just coming with all this information, and I know you have to do this and that, and look at this and look at that, and people will just feel overwhelmed. So first of all, try to understand where they are right now, where they come from, maybe just a little bit. For example, their background, where they're working now, what kind of job they are doing. Just feel what the other people are doing, or Maybe if you don't like these feeling things, because there are emotional people and physical people. Physical people are most of the time don't care about feelings. They just want to get the results. So in that case, also understand that they are so eager to get in the results that they may not pay attention to this feeling thing. So just keep that thing. Just try to mention the least as possible about feelings and go to the result part and how by being connected with them they can achieve the results they are looking for. So I think those are good ideas to work with people, and for you to explore. Maybe you have your own ideas, your own views, and I would love to know about them. As you know, just comment or send me a message and we can have a chat, or a conversation. And I would really like to know more how you proceed when you have this definition things that are getting in the way, right? And maybe we could call this session mate and reflections. I don't know. Uh, and another thing I would love to say about definitions before ending this session is that whatever you call it, definitions, axioms, principles, concepts, I don't know, whatever you call it, they are just words, right? And in the end, they don't mean anything. The things that actually care is that the results people are getting and the feelings you're leaving them with. So if you want to actually be understood after you understand them, concentrate on what's on their mind, what's that they are saying, feeling, thinking, maybe what are the actions they are taking, and that will tell you everything you need to know, as I always say, to deeply understand your clients and to help them succeed in the things they want to accomplish. So I will leave you here some of the questions for you to reflect on the description of the video, and I hope you had fun, just I did, talking to you here. And see you next Thursday, and have fun. Bye bye.